There's a reason why Bundesliga fans are the best in Europe. If there's a fan base more proactive in holding club officials accountable, you cannot look past them. In Germany, being a fan is more than being a season ticket holder. Fans make up an intrinsic part of a club's governance structure, and so if they notice any suspicious dealings between club officials and investors, they will respond with fierce opposition.
Der Dialog ist, aber sie schaffen es nicht einmal mit den eigenen Mitgliedern und mit Menschenrechtsorganisationen in einen konstruktiven Dialog zu kommen.
The aftermath of the COVID pandemic exposed the financial health of clubs across Europe, a lot of whom are on life support. To prevent clubs from seeking loans that could make them more vulnerable, league officials have come up with innovative ways to rescue their clubs. One notable example is Javier Tebas, the president of La Liga, who struck a deal with CVC Partners, a private equity and investment advisory firm based in Luxembourg who manages around $133 billion in assets. Tebas's deal makes up La Liga selling 8.25% of their TV rights for just under 2 billion euros for 50 years, a deal that has left Tebas, Juan Laporta and Florentino Perez in a perennial war of words. Elsewhere in France, Ligue 1 sold 15% of their TV rights to the same company, CVC Partners, for 1.5 billion euros. Taking on these deals meant that the clubs in La Liga and Ligue 1 would get an immediate fresh injection of capital at the expense of future revenues. The Deutsche Fußball Liga, meanwhile, has been struggling to find ways to generate funds to support clubs in the Bundesliga. To address this issue, Watzke, Axel Hellmann, and Oliver Leckie devised a plan. They proposed a foreign investment deal where all 36 Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 clubs would collectively sell 12.5% of their broadcasting rights for 2 billion over a span of 20 years. But this time, guess who the party poopers were? You guessed right. In this video, we will start by understanding the financial impact of competition, how the DFL handles the broadcasting rights of the Bundesliga, and why the Bundesliga failed to secure the deal. If you're new to this channel and enjoy videos like this, kindly share your thoughts and hit the like and subscribe button, as this helps to grow the channel. Alright, let's go. If there's one word that does not resonate with the Bundesliga due to financial disparity, it is competition. In total, Bayern Munich has won the league 33 times, which completely dwarfs FC Nuremberg and Dortmund's 9 and 8 league titles respectively. But it's been much worse in recent years. Bayern Munich has won the Bundesliga for 11 straight years. Unfortunately, this has left everyone wondering where the Bundesliga is headed. What is obvious is that Bayern Munich's squad and financial muscle far outweighs everyone else's. And so the idea is that if the other teams somehow get juiced up financially, they could end the monopoly. Besides, the competition will make the league marketable and hopefully catch up with the Premier League's global appeal. Evidently, there's a strong correlation between money and success in football. The dominant clubs are usually the richest. This is what makes football an attractive investment because you can pretty much guarantee a certain level of success if you have deep pockets. But there are exceptions, and Malaga fans would be the ones to know. The investment strategy of private ownership, however, does not extend well in the Bundesliga because clubs are constrained by law on how much an investor can own. If you're not too familiar with the 50+1 rule, it refers to the need for members of a club, meaning the fans, to hold 50% plus one more votes of voting rights. This means that the fans must have an ultimate say. As a result, it limits the ownership share of a private investor in any Bundesliga club to a minority stake. Even though this may not appeal to private investors, not following this rule makes a club ineligible to participate in the Bundesliga. Notwithstanding, there are a couple of fascinating exceptions to this rule, such as Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig, which could be explored in a future video. Please let me know in the comment section if you'd like to see it. Some have argued that the 50+1 rule that protects Bundesliga clubs from private investor embezzlement has hindered the commercial growth of the club. But what I can tell you is that the fans don't care. There's a profound cultural connection between fans and their clubs in Germany. So much so that it makes the fans numb to the desire of having a private investor taking complete ownership and changing the fortunes of their club with money. In fact, they will cringe at the sight of Man City and Newcastle fans taking to the streets celebrating the takeover of their clubs. See, the truth is, for Bundesliga clubs to mount any serious challenge and improve its global appeal, it needs investment. And this is where the DFL decides to come up with a plan. But first, let's talk about TV money and some interesting facts that a lot of people don't know. The DFL is responsible for organizing the Bundesliga amongst other competitions. As at the time of this recording, it may surprise you to know that the domestic TV rights of the Bundesliga is currently more valuable than La Liga's. In fact, across Europe, there are only second to the Premier League with a value of 1 billion euros per season. However, the value of their international TV rights is where the Bundesliga suffers. So when you combine both international and domestic TV right valuations, the Bundesliga finds itself sitting third behind the Premier League and La Liga. I can hear you say, given the number of teams in the Bundesliga and how much they earn from broadcasting, their clubs should be comfortable, right? Well, no, because the truth lies in the distribution. And later on, you'll see why distribution becomes a contention in the deal that the DFL proposes. To be fair, the DFL did well to improve the distribution model ahead of the 2021-2022 season in a new deal. But right now, let me give you a quick breakdown of what the distribution model was in prior seasons. The Bundesliga used what was called the 4-pillar model, where 70% was distributed based on the 5-year league performance ranking, 23% based on the 5-year ranking for both divisions, 5% distributed based on the 20-year ranking, and finally 2% distributed based on the playing time for German under-23s. This meant that the clubs who consistently finished on top ate up a bulk of the money, leaving crumbs to those at the bottom. For instance, in the 2020-2021 season, first place Bayern Munich earned at least 3 times that of last place Arminia Bielefeld. This is mind-blowing compared to the Premier League, where the top team only earns 1.8 times more than the last place team. The DFL has since changed to a new distribution model. It is no longer heavy on performance, but rather a relatively more equitable criteria. At the risk of sounding academic, I'll do well to simplify it. The duration of the new TV deal is from 2021 to 2025, but it is broken down into 2 terms over the lifespan of the contract. First term is from 2021 to 2023, and the second term is from 2023 to 2025. So we have 2 seasons per term. So let's break down how the money is distributed based on these terms. The new distribution still has 4 pillars, but the percentage allocated for each pillar is different over the 2-term period. For the equal distribution pillar, 53 and 50% of the revenue is distributed equally amongst the clubs in the first and second term. For the performance pillar, 42 and 43% of the revenue is distributed based on performance over the 2 terms respectively. For the youth talent pillar, 3 and 4% of the revenue is allocated over the 2-term period respectively. Youth talent criteria is based on the number of minutes earned by youth players and training. For the last pillar, they have a distribution based on interest in Bundesliga clubs. This will be determined by a survey conducted among the German-speaking population from age 14, and 2 and 3% of the revenue will be allocated for that in the first and second term respectively. It is interesting to see that the Bundesliga has taken strides to improve its distribution model. But if there's anything more important to clubs, it is the immediate need of money to be competitive right now. So the DFL decided to charter a path of private investment, a path that would respect the 50+1 rule and protect the clubs from long-term debts as well. They proposed to establish a company to manage the broadcast rights of the Bundesliga and sell a 12.5% stake to private investors for 2 billion euros over a 20-year period. And again, our old friends CVC Partners happen to be one of the 3 potential candidates, including Advent and Blackstone. But guess what? 40% of the money raised will be invested in digitalization, which includes creating a dedicated streaming channel. 45% will be designated for improving club infrastructure such as stadiums, training centers, and academies. And the remaining 15% will then be given to clubs to utilize at their discretion. I mean, it seems to me like the DFL secured a sizable slice of the pie for itself in this proposal, because almost half of the money is directly going back to them and not the clubs. And in today's market, sharing 300 million euros amongst 36 clubs for discretionary spending just isn't enough for transfers. Nonetheless, the DFL tabled this proposal at an extraordinary general meeting for approval in a secret ballot. For this to go through, a 2/3 majority, that is 24 votes, is required. Unfortunately, only 20 clubs voted in favor, 11 voted against, and 5 abstained, leaving the DFL only 4 votes shy. Prior to the election, there was a massive pushback from fans, especially from Dortmund, whose CEO happens to be the one championing the proposal in the capacity of a supervisory board chairman of the DFL. In fact, the Dortmund fans put in so much work against this proposal to a point where a representative of Bayern Munich's fan base openly thanked them. Where what might sound sensationalized, some fans argued that allowing private sector investment could even influence the Bundesliga fixture schedule to appeal to foreign investors. A section of the fans also felt that there wasn't clarity on how much their clubs will actually make from this deal, with fears being that distribution of funds could be weighted in favor of the top clubs as usual. Bundesliga fans have shown their mettle when it comes to protecting the ownership of their clubs, and this situation is not new to them. But football clubs have become global brands. Do you think they might be pushing this too far? I mean, do you agree that their attitude towards private investment is a hindrance to the competitiveness of the league and its global appeal? Let me know what you think.